Hello, because there are two things I wanted to have a conversation with you about. So,
Right.
number one, a good friend of mine, his name is Danny, okay, Danny Phil Talk. He had a conversation with me about, well, he didn't have a conversation with me. He made a paper and it somehow reached me, and I'm sure it reached you, about the response by opaque context. So he made this like 10-page quick little document against the Trinity, and it was catching storms, it was making the rounds, and basically just doing the thing it's meant to do, right? It's getting very popular and so on and so forth. So I thought, hey, you know what? How about I bring this up with Chris, and I say, you know what? Yeah, these are the arguments that he presented against the different responses to the LPT and so on and so forth. And I thought, let me bring that with Chris and see what he says, and so I sent a link to the thing, and I've got the thingy up on stream right here, so there should be no real issue. So I have it up here on stream so the chat can see it, and I also sent a thing to you so that you can see it. So if you want to just like open the device, and then yeah, we can get cracking. Problem is, you're gonna be very surprised. He doesn't actually talk about your view until page 8. So he only dedicates 2 pages out of the entire 10 to you. So yeah, make of that what you will. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but make of that what you will. That is the response. Did you get it? Did you get
Yep, I've
the
got it.
response?
I'm on page 8 now.
Okay. So yeah, do you want to read it out loud, or do you kind of just want to like skim over and just see your thoughts or something?
Well, let's see. I can read it out loud, but do you want me to skip the exposition of my view and go straight to the critique, or do you want me to
Yeah.
read the
I
exposition
mean,
as well?
do you want to, yeah, because like if he gets the exposition wrong, then you might as well be like, well, you got the exposition wrong too. I mean, hey, it just
Sure.
depends on how you feel.
All right, sure. Let's read it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, do you want to read
Uh,
it, or should I? What's going on?
I'll read it. Well,
Yeah, go
okay,
on,
yeah.
man.
Why don't you read it, and then I'll
Okay, cool.
I'll interject if I have comments. You have a much better voice than I think.
Nah, see, this is because my microphone. I have a fancy little Rode mic over here. That's the only reason. Okay, you sound more approachable and accommodatable. I just sound like a mess. Okay. Um. Okay. All
I
right.
disagree, but all right. You can
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay, so let me just get this up because I've actually found a way to go live on TikTok as well now. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. So yeah, this is the link to the paper on TikTok as well. So if you're on TikTok, guys, if you're in chat, you guys can see the paper as well. Okay, make sure you make your way down to Twitch as well if you do want to ask Danny any. So if you want to ask, did I say Danny? Wow. If you want to ask Chris any questions, just make your way down and things will be quite splendiferous. All right, let's start this. Chris Tweet, in his article Absolute Identity and the Trinity, argues that certain statements regarding the persons involve an opaque context, and inferences which would otherwise generate a logical problem for the Trinity are invalid. He rejects another logical problem for the Trinity by also accepting divine simplicity. Consider the statement Lois Lane believes that Superman can fly. Given that Superman is the same individual as Clark Kent, we might want to infer that Lois Lane believes that Clark Kent can fly. However, this isn't necessarily true, as she could believe that Clark Kent cannot fly. The problem is that Lois Lane believes that is such that what follows is an opaque or intentional context, and the substitution of coextensional or co-referring terms slash expressions do not necessarily preserve the truth value of the overall statement. This can be contrasted with a transparent or extensional context in which substituting coextensional or co-referring terms and expressions does necessarily preserve the truth value of the overall statement. For example, we can infer Clark Kent can fly from Superman can fly, given that Clark Kent is Superman. When exactly we have a transparent or opaque context is somewhat controversial. The most common cases, at least, are involving propositional attitudes. So that's the intro. You have any problems so far?
No, it's Very accurate so far.
So far, very accurate. Solution to the first
Yeah.
problem. How then is this applied to the Trinity? Tweet suggests that an opaque context in a sentence is generated around a part of a sentence identifying or describing a divine person, or some entity or description based on a divine person. For example, when we say the Father is, what follows the Father is in an opaque context, and coextensional or co-referring terms / expressions in that context cannot necessarily be substituted while preserving the truth value of the overall statement. Given the two statements, the Father is God, number one, and number two, the Son is God, we might think that we can infer that the Son is the Father. But this inference is blocked because both 1 and 2 involve opaque contexts. On this view, consider two ostensibly analogous statements. 1 comma, we're going to say, so 1 apostrophe. I believe that Cassius Clay is Muhammad Ali. Number 2, I believe that Cassius X is Muhammad Ali. Given these statements and given the fact that Cassius Clay is Cassius X, we might think that we can infer that I believe that Cassius Clay is Cassius X. However, this inference is blocked because both 1 and 2 involve opaque contexts. Note that I might not have the further belief. The upshot of this is that we cannot validly infer any of the problematic identity statements like the Father is the Son, or the Father is the Spirit, or the Son is the Spirit, because each such inference would involve substituting an opaque context. Substituting in an opaque context. There is a second. Is there anything wrong so far? So you just
Nope, we're
so
good.
He's just talking about your solution to the first one. He's just trying to say, this is what he's saying. He hasn't gotten to the objections yet. There's a second logical problem for the Trinity, though, which has not been resolved. After all, if it is the case that the Father is a God, the Son is a God, and the Spirit is a God, the Father is not the Son, the Father is not the Spirit, and the Son is not the Spirit, thank you so much for the donation, it would seem to follow that there are at least 3 different things which are a God. And so there are at least 3 gods. I like the way he put the "at least" in brackets there. I think he did it on purpose as well. Like, he was like, well, yeah, there's at least 3. Tweet adds to his account the doctrine of divine simplicity, according to which God is a simple being. He notes that given divine simplicity, to have an intrinsic and non-relational property such as being a God, just to be identical. To have an intrinsic and non-relational property such as being a God just is to be identical to God, where God is an individual, not a property. We can then restate premises 1 to 6 as follows. Number 1, the Father is God. Number 2, the Son is God. Number 3, the Spirit is God. Number 4, the Father is not the Son. Number 5, the Father is not the Spirit. And number 6, the Son is not the Spirit. In this case, we cannot infer that there are 3 gods. Moreover, as before, these statements are not collectively inconsistent. So some people are complaining about the left ear. If my mic, you can only hear it for the left ear. If that's the case for you, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I can't lie. So, moreover, as before, these statements are not collectively inconsistent. The only way to generate a contradiction from these statements is to perform substitutions, which would be legitimate given that the statements involve opaque contexts. For example, we cannot infer the denial of premise 4 from premises 1 and 2 because such an inference would involve substituting the Son in for God in premise 1, and God is in an opaque context in premise 1. So far, has he articulated your response to the second view?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's look at the responses now. The main problem for this approach is that I think plainly the statements here simply do not involve opaque contexts. Consider the statements, Cassius Clay is Muhammad Ali, and number 2, the Father is God. Plainly, number 1 is a transparent extensional context. We are effectively saying of a particular individual that they are themselves but using 2 different names. Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali. For that individual to do so, given the fact that Muhammad Ali is Cassius X, it would be a legitimate inference to conclude that Cassius Clay is Cassius X. The problem is that premise 2 functions the exact same way. We are effectively saying of a particular individual that they are themselves, but using two different names, the Father and God, for that individual to do so. There is no explicit or implicit intentional operator that would introduce an opaque context in premise 1 or 2. Accordingly, given that there is no opaque context introduced in premise 2 and the related statements, inference to the problematic statements like the Father is the Son is not blocked. So that's the first objection. Your thoughts?
Well, this amounts to saying, nah. Right. I mean, what do I do with this, right? I spent a paper outlining the mechanisms that would enable the logical problem of the Trinity not to go through. and now it just says no, that's not true.
Oh my!
Now,
I'm sorry, Chris. Give me some. So let me get this straight. So the response in this first argument is just him saying nah. Is that?
yeah.
Because I read this paper, right? And I looked at the very first sentence is very funny to me. The main problem is the statements don't involve opaque Why? I don't understand.
Yeah.
You guys think like chat. You guys think that like I'm just laughing at this. Like Chris is laughing at my laugh, so he's not actually laughing at.
I'm laughing at your laugh. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Like we're both looking at this paper together. I'm looking at it for the second time. He's looking at it for the second time. Is it second time, first time, third time?
I think it's I think I looked over it briefly when I was initially sent the paper.
Yeah, so the second time probably, right? So
Yeah.
this is not like fresh in our minds at all. We just like are very bad at organizing stuff. This was like 3 weeks in the making.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so is there anything else that's wrong with just saying this is an extensional context? Is there anything wrong about that in regards to your paper at least?
Well, I think we can strengthen this objection so that it's not just saying it's clear that there's an absence of an intentional context, because you can't clearly see that there's not an intentional context. That's impossible, right?
Right, right, yeah.
And it's true that I don't argue for the presence of an intentional context. I just give the mechanism to show that if you uphold the Trinity, so suppose I'm a Trinitarian, right? An Orthodox Trinitarian.
Nice.
And then someone were to object, I'm just giving a means to object while maintaining other positions. I'm just showing that there's a logical compatibility there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's actually true that there's an intentional context. I'm just saying, here's a mechanism that would enable you to do it.
Yeah.
And you might have a lot of strong reasons to believe in Orthodox Trinitarianism and an absolute identity reading of these statements. And so given that you have strong reasons to uphold that, then you also have thereby strong reasons to think that there are intentional contexts there. But you don't discover it by looking, and there's no independent argument for it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do it like that. So it's impossible to clearly see that there's not an intentional context.
Right.
Now,
right.
but let me try to strengthen this argument. The argument can say it can be a parity argument, right? A parity, right? So it can say, look, just as there are these other statements where we take there to be no intentional contexts, this Trinitarian statement looks just like it. And so we have inductive reasons for thinking that these Trinitarian statements also don't contain any intentional contexts.
Right. Okay.
I think that's a much stronger argument.
Okay, so let me get this straight then. So you're saying that if you wanted to steelman this position, if you wanted to make it stronger, for lack of a better phrase, or if you wanted to make the argument stronger, you would say that this argument seems to be the same as other extensional contexts, right? As in like the statement the Father is the Son is like another
Yeah.
extensional context, right?
I mean, looking at its surface form, right? Its
Yeah.
surface linguistic form and semantic
Just looking
form,
at.
you
Look
don't
at
you don't see anything that would indicate that there's an intentional context in Trinitarian statements.
right, right.
Same way
That does make
the
sense.
statements about Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali.
That's true. But then again, like that's just assuming, well, let's just read the text prima facie. We have no interpretive framework for these texts. Just read it like you're in preschool and just like have it as that. That's great. That's fantastic. But I think the whole point is you're doing an internal critique. So you already have like a very oh wait, hold on. You okay? Ah, I can't hear you. Wait, no. I can't guys, we lost Chris. We lost them. We can't hear what you're saying. Hold on. We cannot hear you. You are AWOL. You sound like ChatGPT, which is basically nothing. Let's see if we can get his voice. Nah. Your voice I cannot hear. Wait, hold on. I'm just gonna message him because I know he can hear me. Did you change? Did you change the thingy? Did you? He definitely he edited, guys. Guys, just hold on. R.I.P. Chris in chat, guys. R.I.P. Chris in chat, please. You can't hear me either. Wait, what? Why? What's going on? Hold on. Cause my audio is fine. Oh. Wait, hold on. If I remove you and then add you to the stage again. Hold on. Nah. This is shagged. I don't know what's going on. Okay, I entered the studio. So it's just Chris in there. Chris. What's this? Can you hear me? I can hear I can't you can hear me. Okay, but I can't hear you. So there's definitely a guys, I promise you, we were doing so well. we were doing so well. And it's been lovely having it, guys. Guys, just hold on, please. Don't just leave stream. Just hold on and calm down. Don't be trigger happy. Okay? Don't be trigger happy. Just chill out. We're gonna get this to work. He's got guys. I'm telling you right now, he's got really nice taste in paintings. I can't verify that, but he's got a good taste in paintings. Let's see. It's a good room. To be fair, it's a pretty good room. I'm not even gonna kid. Yeah, is this your office or no? It looks like his office. It's a good window. Woo! That's pretty cool. What's this guy doing? Yeah, you should leave and come back. And then we'll see what's going on. All right, he's gone. He's gonna be back, guys. Okay, I promise you, he's gonna be back, and things are gonna be okay. Okay. That's why it works. You see what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Chat, we do have Chris back in the building. Okay, so do you remember where we left off?
Yes, I was trying to strengthen the argument to make it into a parity argument.
What's a parity argument? Just for chat. I don't even know what a parity argument is.
Sure. Showing the equality of two arguments. So just as it is in one case, so it is in another.
Oh, okay.
So remember, Anselm's perfect being argument. Mm-hmm. You can imagine a perfect being, therefore the perfect and existence is a perfection, therefore the perfect being exists.
Yeah.
And then the parity argument was, well, you can imagine a perfect island.
Right.
Yeah. And so similarly, you can say Cassius Clay's Muhammad Ali. There's a statement, you look at it and you don't see that there's any intentional context. Therefore, you have reason to think that there isn't any.
Okay.
Similarly, the Father is God is a statement. You look at it, you don't see an intentional context. Therefore, you have reason to think that there isn't one.
That's actually pretty good, to be fair. And even then, it still doesn't work because you're presupposing that you don't have an interpretive framework for this. You're doing an internal critique. The whole point of the logical problem of the Trinity is you're saying that there's a logical contradiction in there. Assuming the Trinity is true, which would be your first premise, right? The first premise in the argument would be, well, I think a lot of people don't know this, but am I right in saying that when you're doing the logical problem of the Trinity, a lot of the time when they give like the 7-point syllogism, that's famous in Craig, that's famous in Bo Branson and other theologians that have commented on this topic, right? Usually they just give the 7 premises, the Father is God, Holy Spirit is God, Son is God, all that stuff, right? But really, the very first premise in this entire thing should be assume the Trinity is true. Right? And so because of that first premise that everyone just assumes, you're doing an internal critique. And so that first premise gives you the power to use opaque contexts as an interpretive framework for the Trinity, since you're assuming the Trinity is true by premise 1 anyways. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's excellent. It's almost like to do the internal critique, you have to run a reductio ad absurdum argument, right? So you have to assume the position first, show that there's a contradiction, and so you have to deny a premise.
Right.
And the deny is the Trinity premise.
Right, which is true, right? So that's to really put away the extensional. He really did the Jordan finger wag thing when he dunked on Mutombo. He did the, he did the no. Okay. So the second premise, okay, the second argument, because he makes 4 different objections. The second problem that he gives is that it is semantically mysterious. I'm gonna try and do like hand effects because I don't have my soundboard, so it's mysterious. Okay. That's it. Like, there's no actual like words underneath the paragraph. He just says semantically mysterious, and that's it.
Could that be a heading for the next 2?
Semantically mysterious, unmotivated. I guess let's assume it is. I don't know how it would be, but sure, it is semantically mysterious, unmotivated. Great. So he says in this very short, I believe it's 2 sentences. He says 3 sentences. He says, Tweet has little to say in way of motivation for this account. He effectively says that if the basic Trinitarian doctrines are accepted on authority, and so the arguments against it fail, and if the other accounts fail, and it's not obvious that this one does, then we should prefer this account. He does accept the basic Trinitarian doctrines, and so the arguments against it fail, and that the other accounts fail, and it's not obvious that this one does, and so he is moved to prefer this account. So, what are your thoughts on on this objection to this Stonewall argument?
Well, there are 3 sentences in this paragraph, and the second and third sentence are true. But I don't see the connection between those and the first one. So it's true that I effectively say that if basic Trinitarian doctrines are accepted on authority, and if the other accounts fail, then we should prefer this account. And I do accept the basic Trinitarian doctrines, and I do accept that the other accounts fail. Yeah. So I'm motivated to prefer the account. That seems like a good argument to me, right? It's an argument from elimination.
Yeah.
Look, you accept that something's true, therefore there are these possible options. You reject all the other options, you go with the best one. I don't see why that's little in way of motivation. That's pretty good motivation, I think.
Look, I'm as lost as you. I saw this, it said unmotivated. I read it, it says, I like this one, I don't like these ones. The reason I like these one is because these ones have problems. So I'm going with this good option here. It just looks, like he's complaining.
How about this, Sig? Let me read an alternative paragraph, all right?
Okay. I'm ready for this. I'm here for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tweet provides strong motivation for believing this account. He says that if the basic Trinitarian doctrines are accepted on authority, and if the other accounts fail, then we should prefer this account. And he does accept the basic Trinitarian doctrines and that the other accounts fail. So he's moved to prefer this account.
It's the same thing. It's the. I can't do this. I just got back. Why? Why are we doing this? Oh, because the problem is chat was really asking for this. They were like, "Oh, this is such an ironclad argument, guys. Like, you have to read this paper. It's amazing." So I said, "Fine, let me dedicate 5 seconds to this." Yeah, this is not good. Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, I mean, there's not really much. What do you do with that? There's nothing much I can really say on that, is there? I mean, I just kind of just say, well, what do you do? You can't. He's just complaining about your motivate. It doesn't even look like he's complaining about the motivations at this point. He's kind of just saying he chose this option and he didn't choose the other ones. So and I'm like, okay, sure, GG's. Help me out here, please. Like, I genuinely, I genuinely don't know. I'm stumped. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so imagine that you made this argument. You said
Yeah.
Jesus was this human on earth who claimed to be God and died and rose from the dead. And if you claim to be God, either you are God, or you're a lunatic. You think you're a God, but you're not. So you're just you're delusional, or
Right.
you're
Right.
a liar. And we have reason to believe that Jesus wasn't a lunatic
Yeah.
or a liar. So we
Yeah.
have reason to think that Jesus is Lord. And then someone objects to you and says, "Look, when it's clearly true that Jesus isn't Lord, because you see other humans that are similar to Jesus and they're not Lord, and you look at Jesus and he's not Lord." And then he gives this other objection, says, "Look, this whole idea of Christianity is unmotivated. All you say is that Jesus resurrected from the dead and is a Lord, liar, lunatic, and he's not a liar and not a lunatic, so he's Lord."
Yeah.
What do
Right.
you
I mean, you don't say anything. You kind of just grit your teeth and move on. I'm gonna be real. I mean, I wouldn't say anything. I kind of just, I, what do you do? You kind of just like stuck there, like twiddling your thumbs. If I'm being honest, you know what I mean? Like, sure, you don't like the solution. Oh, great. All love to Danny, by the way. This is great. This is great stuff. This is like A
so
plus.
maybe what I can try to do is to try to get some understanding, right? So
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
with respect to the first critique of the argument,
Mm-hmm.
the understanding is that we are assuming that Trinitarianism is true, and
Mm,
we're trying to explore options for what we can do if we take those Trinitarian statements to be absolute identity statements.
yeah, yeah.
Like this is the only solution that will allow you to take those statements to be absolute identity statements.
Okay.
And so you can think of it as an internal way of resolving the logical problem of the Trinity.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's true that you cannot on the surface tell that these statements have intentional contexts,
True.
but you have to do additional work in order to have reason to think that there is an intentional context in there.
Like believing the Trinity is true, which is the
That's
whole
right.
point.
And that the statements are absolute identity statements, and
Which are
that
the
there are
only
no
two things.
other available options.
Yeah, which is fine. Like your back's against the wall here, guys. I mean, not really,
Yep.
but like this is the way that it is. Um,
And then for
you
the
have,
second,
yeah, go on.
you can try to get some understanding by saying
Hmm.
uh, that is the motivation. And so maybe it's a little motivation, but it is the motivation for the account. And I'm not sure what better job we could do to motivate an account than
Yeah,
to get something like that argument from elimination.
yeah. It's really it seems to be really really smooth, to be honest. Let's look at the third one. This is the third one, the final one. This is the big beast. This is the one that people said if the first two you thought were really strong, this one, yeah, this one will blow you away. Okay, this is the one that they told me that I shouldn't look at this one because I might lose my faith. So yeah, I'm gonna look at this one. Hey, it might be okay.
All right.
All right, we're gonna do this and hopefully it's gonna be really good. if we grant divine simplicity, the title, by the way, guys, is "The Solution to the Second Problem Doesn't Work." If we grant divine simplicity and the given phrasing of premises 1 to 3 above, and the initial premises 1 to 6 are still true, and the inference to at least 3 gods from those statements does not appear to involve problematic substitutions, the fact that we can infer premises 1 to 6, special premises 1 to 6 from premise 1 to 6 normal, given simplicity, does nothing to undermine the inference to polytheism from the normal premises 1 to 6. In other words, the fact that we can infer a collection of statements which is special premise 1 to 6 from normal premise 1 to 6, and polytheism doesn't follow from special 1 to 6, does not show that polytheism does not follow from premises 1 to 6. Arguably, it does. Tweet's solution, then, does nothing to resolve the worry of polytheism for the Trinitarian. That's it. That's the. I tried to scroll down, but my mouse broke. So yeah, there is nothing more. That is it. That's the critique.
Yeah. So the idea is that even if I'm correct in what I say in the paper, it's still true that the Father is a God, and the Son is a God, and the Spirit is a God.
Right.
What I'm trying to say, maybe it will help to provide a better understanding of my solution to the second problem, because the author, I don't know the author, but the author seems to have gotten my solution to the second problem correct when giving the exposition. But I worry that it's not understood here in the objection to that second solution.
Right. Which is weird because he articulated it well. It's just now he's just like, I don't even know what to say. Like it doesn't seem to be
he says,
over in the response.
Given divine simplicity to have an intrinsic and non-relational property such as being a God, just is to be identical to God. And so what I'm trying to say is, if we're going to do the typical logical reformulation of the English here, usually what you do is, if something is a predicate, then it's like capital letter for predicate and then small letter for whatever instantiates that predicate. So for example, if you say a tweet is a human, little t for tweet and then big H for human.
Yeah.
And that's the saying tweet has this property of being a human. And so when we read 1 through 6, the Father is a God, and the Son is a God, and the Spirit is a God. What that typically means is that there's some sort of predicate, being a God, that's true of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, just like being a human is true of me.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that if divine simplicity is true, that predicate statement is false. Instead, what's true is that the Father equals God. The Father doesn't have the property of being God. The Father is God. And when we say something that on the surface or in the English seems to be ascribing some property of God, really what we're doing is saying the Father is identical to God. Right? That quote there. To have an intrinsic and non-relational property, such as being a God, is not really to have that property. It is to be identical to God.
That's true.
Where God is an individual, not a property, right? So if we're going to do the logical representation of the Father is a God, we should do capital F, or like F equals G, not lowercase f, capital G. Right? So the Father is a God, we're not saying that there is something that has this property or belongs to a kind. We're not even saying that. We're saying the Father equals God. And so the paraphrasing from the Father is a God to the Father is God is just a way of trying to communicate what that underlying logical form is, if divine simplicity is true. Does that make sense?
No,
So So I guess what I'm trying to say is it is true that the Father is a God. But the
Mm,
way to understand that is to say the Father just is God. It's not to say
right.
that the Father has this property of being God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are not three things that have the same property of being God, or there's not three things that belong to the kind that is God. Just like there's not, I mean, but even though there's Chris and there's Sig,
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
things have have the same property of being human or belong to the kind human.
Yeah.
Divine simplicity says there is not that sort of thing. There are
Thank
not
God.
persons that have the property of being God.
I see.
There are three persons who are identical to God.
Mm,
And the only way you have the inference to three gods is if you
mm.
have three things that share a property.
Right, which is something that the social Trinitarians would probably say.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's why the charge of polytheism is
Mm.
made for social Trinitarians.
Right. 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 See that? See, that's the thing. He's a nice guy,
Are-
by the way. Like, he's an amazing person. I think he has a channel as well. His name is Danny Phil Talk. Really nice guy. He's an atheist. He doesn't really care too much about the Trinity per se, but he just does it because a lot of Christians will come up to him and be like, "Oh, you're an atheist. You're illogical." So it's like, "Oh, I'm illogical." Okay, look at you, the Trinity. Like, he kind of just does it as sort of like a reflex. And he's got a philosophy degree, I believe. I don't know if he has a master's, but yeah, I think he should have a postgrad. I think, yeah. But yeah, really really nice guy. The other objections that he did give to all these other problems were noted before by other philosophers, and he's just repeating the literature, which is really nice. And so yeah,
yeah.
no, he's an amazing person. So like, don't let anyone think that we are against Danny Phil Talk. We love Danny Phil Talk. We love you. Okay, you are an amazing person. Congratulations. But there are other matters that we do need to attend to. Thank you so much for that. There is something else that I did want to touch on. I reached out to you, I believe, a couple weeks ago on this matter as well. And the reason I reached out to you was because I found this argument really funny. And so I thought, okay, well, let me just reach out to Chris and see what he says on the topic. Um, and I reached out to my own philosophy tutor at the time, the person that actually is marking my philosophy papers for the term. So I thought, okay, let me reach out to him as well, send the syllogism. He was really up for it as well. I don't know what it is with people in the philosophy department, but they're really up for just like talking about stuff, which makes sense, I guess, in hindsight.
hmm
So I sent him the paper and I said, okay, here's the paper, okay, um, and it's not a paper, it's a syllogism, right? So let's crack open the syllogism again and let's look at the way that we approach these or how someone should think about it. Now, the person that sent the syllogism to me, very nice person, the person that sent this to me said that he does not care um, about any other response to the argument other than in a syllogism, which I thought was weird, but um, I'm not going to grant him that request. We are going to talk about it, unless obviously you want to provide a syllogism, which is fine. But no, I'm not going to grant this guy's request, unfortunately. Um, Here it is. Okay,
I mean, Sig, you can make it into a syllogism.
could, but then that's giving him what he wants, and I don't.
I
No, I mean, we'll look at like the premises. We'll look at the premises. There are there are 6 points of information. There are 5 premises, one conclusion. Um, let's see what it is. I'm gonna read them out, and then you can tell me. Chat. Can you guys see the argument? Really good. Can you guys see it? We're just gonna make it bigger. We're gonna make it in bold so you guys can see it. TikTok. Can you guys see it? Can you guys see the argument? Okay, you guys can see the argument. Thank you so much. Okay, make sure you guys contribute to Chris's website. He has a ton of cool papers and a lot of good contributions to A, society, okay, and B, the philosophical world. He's really cool. So please make sure you do reach out to him respectfully, okay? Don't be weird. He'll just ignore you. Okay, so premise 1 is a truth is either necessarily true or contingently true. If a truth cannot be shown, premise 2, to entail a contradiction when denied, it cannot be justified as necessarily true and is thus justified as contingently true. This is definitional. Premise 3, if something is justified as contingently true, then it is impossibly essentially ascribed to a necessary truth. Premise 4, the Trinity cannot be shown to be true by otherwise contradictions resulting. Premise 5, I believe this is a conclusion. The Trinity thus cannot be justified as necessarily true and is thus justified as contingently true. Premise 6, so the Trinity is therefore impossibly essentially ascribed to a necessary truth. So that is the argument, that is the syllogism. What are your first thoughts when encountering the syllogism? What are you trying to do to break it down? What's going on?
Are you asking Chad, or do you want me to talk to you about this?
Yeah, you can talk about it. You can talk about it. I mean, I was asking you.
Yeah, premise 2 is false.
Okay.
So that there can be necessary truths that whose falsity does not entail a contradiction.
Okay. So there are things that are necessarily true, but the falsity doesn't entail a contradiction, and this is something that's obviously known in Saul Kripke's work, right?
Yes, that's right.
So the guy reached out to me and said, premise 2 is false. Sure, I'm gonna provide a syllogism for premise 2, and he did send it. I sent it to you, I believe. So I'm going to just pull it up here. And he came up with a proof by contradiction for premise 2, and it's here. I'm just gonna put it down here. Premise 1, something is either contingent or necessary. A contingent thing is that which can fail definitionally. Premise 3, a necessary thing is that which cannot fail to exist definitionally. Premise 4, necessary truth can fail to exist. Premise 5, conclusion 5, therefore necessary truth is identical to contingent truth. So bear in mind, right, this is his argument to show that premise 2 is correct, not that necessary truth cannot fail to exist. It's to show that premise 2 is correct.
No, it's not. No, because the conclusion isn't the same as premise 2. Right? If it were going to be an argument for premise 2, the conclusion would have to be identical to the wording
to premise 2. That's what I said. I said this, but I just wanted to look. That's why I wanted to bring it up. So this, remember, bear in mind, chat. This is the argument to justify premise 2. So the guy that created this argument, very good friend of mine, he knows that premise 2 is the deal breaker for many people, especially in the philosophical literature, which most philosophers, most logicians assume metaphysical necessity and logical necessity to be two different things. This is his argument. This is his syllogism to prove that premise 2 is true. What's wrong with this, Chris?
I suppose I had a premise that contained. Suppose I had an argument that contained the premise that Jesus is God.
Right.
And then you asked me to justify that. And I gave you an argument that did not mention the word God. The argument would not work.
Yeah, guys, it's actually been a great stream. I can't lie to you. This has been fantastic. Yeah, I just realized what was I just realized what was wrong with this. I just realized, wow, that puts things into perspective.
This doesn't say anything about contradiction.
It doesn't. It actually doesn't. I don't see it.
Not say anything about that, but if you're going to argue for the premise that Jesus is God, the conclusion of the argument should be that
Jesus is God. Right.
And so the conclusion of this needs to be whatever premise 2 is.
Which is not. Maybe he can like fill it out a bit more, right? I mean, like, it's very much the case that he could just, fill out the syllogism a bit more, but the syllogism as it stands right now doesn't actually prove.
No, Sig, this would have to be a completely different argument.
I think it is. I think he's trying to prove that something is either a contingent truth or a necessary truth, and like he's trying to say that there's a contradiction in saying that a contingent truth is a necessary truth. But but premise 2 is trying to say that the only way to show something is metaphysically necessary is by drawing a contradiction and denying it. So,
Will you please scroll up a little bit so I can see all of P1 through P5?
yeah, sure thing, man. There you go. Is that enough? That should be okay. Yeah, it should be fine.
Oh, I mean on your stream.
Oh no, on stream it's fine. Like on stream it should be okay.
Oh, you've got your picture over the.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Chat. I'm gonna make my screen smaller. Okay. So here you go, guys. You can see the whole thing. Yeah. Go. Guys, just give me a second. Okay. Give me a second. We're gonna just make sure that everything's okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. All right. Cool. So stream should be okay. TikTok, time to rock. You guys doing okay? Okay. It's just good. All right, everyone's accounted for. All the people are in the ship. This is calm.
All right, so it's P1. Something's either contingent. So it'd be a statement is either contingent or necessary, is what it ought to say.
Right.
Because my phone can't be. I guess my phone could be. All right, but I thought we were talking about statements here. But okay, so a thing is either contingent or necessary. It's contingent if it could fail to exist. So that's true. A necessary thing is that which cannot fail to exist. Okay. And then necessary truth can fail in premise 4.
I think that's the assumption. But I don't know where that assumption is from. He's just saying this is an assumption. I don't even know whether in context of the argument it's an assumption from.
Yeah, so by the way, Flackett, oh Alex, it's raining outside is a contingent truth. That's right.
Yeah.
Because it could rain outside.
Yeah, it's raining outside is something that is contingently true. Like, think about it being like contingent on. So it's contingent on these things over here. Okay? Contingent is just something that could be true or could be false. I like this whole failing language because they want to. I feel like the person making the syllogism has in mind that like they want to say that like something went wrong. Like there's something went wrong. It's even with the term with like false, right? I mean, obviously that's the way that we do speak about it, but still, I think it's funny that they went for fail to exist rather than this is false or But yeah, okay. I mean, the syllogism doesn't really. Do you think that you could create? Do you think it's possible for you, through your years of like research and stuff? Do you think that it's possible that someone could create a syllogism that would prove premise true to be correct? So premise 2 in the above argument, if a truth, the definitional, if a truth cannot be shown to entail a contradiction when denied, it cannot be justified.
No, I don't. I think anything that you would write there. So if a truth doesn't entail a contradiction, then it's not. If a truth doesn't entail a contradiction, then it's contingently true.
I think that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that if a truth doesn't show, if it doesn't entail a contradiction when you deny it. So let's say, for example, someone denies the law of identity. So there's a contradiction that arises. That's why he believes it's metaphysically true. So he believes that logical necessity and metaphysical necessity are the exact same thing, and that there are no examples ever in reality where you can have something that's metaphysically true, and then you can have something that is logically necessary as well.
Yeah, so he's basically saying in premise 2 that if a truth is necessary, then its denial entails a contradiction.
Yeah. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah. And that conditional there, if a truth is necessary, then its denial entails a contradiction, is going to have counterexamples.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
take any truth you might think is necessary, like something exists,
Mm,
all right, or there is a universe,
mm,
um, or uh, if something is an effect, it has a cause.
mm.
All of these things, denying them doesn't entail a contradiction.
So let's break
If
that one
you were,
down.
if you were trying to make there be a contradiction that results,
Mm-hmm.
you would have to have that statement in a syllogism with a whole bunch of other statements that you're assuming to be true.
And then you would need to prove those ones ad infinitum.
That's right.
Right. Because
So the
ultimately,
statement itself doesn't entail a contradiction. Here's what
mm,
entails a contradiction. Um, a shape is round and a shape is not round.
yeah.
Like, that conjunction entails a contradiction. On
So
its own,
just to clarify, right? When you say contains a contradiction, actually no. Finish what you're gonna say, because I was probably gonna ask something really stupid. Please finish what you're gonna say.
no, there are some statements like
Mm,
conjunctions, like I just stated, that
mm,
entail contradictions all on their own. You can just
mm,
use the laws of logic. You don't need any other assumptions or premises to show that a contradiction results.
mm,
That's those are tautologies.
mm-hmm,
Uh,
mm-hmm.
so tautologies are the sorts of things where their denial entails a contradiction on its
Mm,
own.
right. Okay.
There are necessary truths
Mm-hmm.
that, if you combine them with other truths,
Mm,
and so into an argument, can
right.
entail contradiction. But then there's the question, why are we assuming those other truths?
Right.
Even contingent truths, you can assume other things to entail a contradiction with contingent truths. But then the question is, why are you assuming those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what the author of this argument is doing is conflating tautologies with necessary truths.
Right. So let me get something. I want to ask a question to you. Um, when it comes to um entailing or entailment, maybe you explained this before. What do we mean as logicians, as philosophers, or basically just as someone that uses their brain? When you use your monkey brain, you try to scrap
Mhm.
the brain together. What does entailing mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And sorry, I use this terminology because we philosophers use it all the time, but
It
sometimes I don't realize that it's not common.
Yeah.
Entailing just means requires or
Right.
necessitates that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that has to be true as a result of whatever was said.
Right.
So
Right.
the shape is round and the shape is not round entails a contradiction because it requires that there's a contradiction if you go through the laws of logic, or
Okay.
sort of thing where a contradiction just has to be true if that
Mm.
initial statement is true.
So when we to put this practically, right? Because the definition was perfect. If I said, for example, let me just scroll down. Maybe I could articulate this for someone like me that's not the best, or someone like in chat that's not the best. Let's say we have the idea, um, P, we have P and not P. I don't actually have like the symbol. Actually, no, I do have the symbol. Uh, E and not N. Um,
Actually, it's a little different than that.
okay.
Here's what it's saying. I'm going to type it in chat, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Come on, let's see this. Let's cook. Guys, he is typing on Twitch. So if you do want to ask him questions, if you do want to interact with chat, he is talking on Twitch. So please make sure you go over to Twitch and yeah, just don't send any hate to any of these people. These are all just nice guys.
All right, so that brackets there should make a diamond. That's
Yeah. I see
possible.
it.
So it's not possible. And the E refers to particular. I mean, I'm just assuming there's a particular elephant here. So let's say, and this elephant cannot be a natural number. And then the N is the predicate. So it's like the elephant belonging to a kind or having this property of being a number. So it's not possible that there's an elephant. It's not possible that this elephant is a number.
So if I wanted to write this out on the big screen, just for the people here, it would be, rather than this stupid thing that I wrote down here, right? It's going to be, well, because technically E and not N is just going to be saying elephants and not natural numbers, right?
Yes.
But you're trying to say elephants can't be natural numbers. So if you wanted to really write this out,
yeah.
Hey, I dropped the sound. That was really good. It's going to be basically, if I just do this, and then N-E, like that. So you cannot have N and you cannot have N being E, basically.
Well, and yeah, another thing is that the capital letters stand for entire statements.
Right.
When you do
the lesser letters do that. My bad. Sorry.
So when you do P and not P, that's two statements. So this square is round and
the square is not round.
Square is round.
Yeah.
Or this is an elephant, and it's not the case that this is an elephant. Whereas when you said elephants cannot be natural numbers, that's just one statement. So you could symbolize that with just an E.
Right.
Let E be the statement elephants cannot be natural numbers, right? It's not like you have statements that you're joining together or something.
So what I wanted to demonstrate there, Chris, the reason I wrote it the way that I did was that is actually how a lot of us just approach syllogisms and approach sentences in general. When we see the statement, elephants can't be natural numbers, a lot of us that aren't experienced with logic and, well, not even just experienced, but just experienced with how to write sentences and what sentences actually mean, would write what I wrote before. I can easily write it like this. I'm not going to go and show you my files right now, but like the reason I dropped logic was I was just doing it with my tutor anyway. But you can write it like, this is the way that you're actually meant to write it, chat. The reason I wrote it like that before is because I know every single one of you in chat wrote it the exact same way. And the reason you would write it like that is because you are thinking that these are two sentences. So elephants, cannot be natural numbers, and you're saying elephants and not natural numbers. The problem is elephants is one sentence, not natural numbers is another. So if really what you want to have is elephants can't be, there isn't a P and not P here. There isn't an E and not E here. And so even if you wanted to break it down logically, if you wanted to really get this on, there are a bunch of things that you would have to assume that aren't contained here. You don't get a contradiction in this sentence right here. And so that's why people like Kripke wanted to say that actually you have a distinction between metaphysical necessity and then you have logical necessity. So this is why, like, and just Chris, just to ask, just to inform chat, how common is this distinction in philosophy? Like, if you could describe it in terms of anything you could think of on your mind, how common is this?
I don't know a philosopher who doesn't make this distinction. This is understood to be a distinction. So if anyone said, yeah, that's logically necessary, but not metaphysically necessary in philosophical circles, everyone would understand what you mean. And we could debate whether something's metaphysically necessary as well, but we would understand the distinction between metaphysical and logical necessity.
Okay. Wow. I mean, this has been very fantastic. You know, I feel like a lot of people learned from this. A lot of people joined the community as well and are gifting subs in chat. Thank you so much for the gift, Big Dazza. Thank you so much for the gift. Thank you so much for everyone that actually came and attended this stuff. But I think, do you have any more time at all, or are you done? Is this it?
I just have a few more minutes. My family's waiting for me at home, and
nice. No,
yeah.
that's fair. I mean, okay. Do you have anything you want to say to chat? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to give to them? Advice or anything you want to say before we conclude the business being true here?
well, let's bring this distinction between metaphysical necessity and logical necessity back to the original argument.
Okay.
To kind of wrap it up. So when the author of this argument says basically that if a truth is necessary, then its denial entails a contradiction. They're saying that is true of logically necessary statements, but that's not true about metaphysically necessary statements. So things like elephants cannot be natural numbers is metaphysically necessary, but its denial doesn't create a contradiction.
That's true.
So,
that's true. Yeah.
Something like statements about the Trinity, or the statement "God exists." God exists is metaphysically necessary,
right?
Or it's metaphysically, it's necessarily false. It's either necessarily true or necessarily false in a metaphysical sense. But denying that does not entail a contradiction.
Okay. Right. Hey, and someone just cheered. That's a cheered 100 bits. Just for that. I think that's the end. I mean, I think the ultimate conversation, I think, and in defense to this person, to play devil's advocate, I think he thinks in his mind that that there is no distinction between metaphysical necessity and logical necessity. He just thinks that somewhere down the line, he's going to be able to find a logical contradiction in a he's going to find a contradiction in a metaphysically true statement. Like, he will be able to find a statement that seems to be metaphysically true, right? Oh, sorry. That needs to be metaphysically necessary. So, for example, elephants cannot be natural numbers is a metaphysical necessary statement, right? It's a necessary truth. He's going to say, down the line, at some point, I'm going to be able to find a P and not P somewhere. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know that I will. What do you have to say to that? We've got like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm kidding. What do you have to say to
that? Well, that's usually not taken very seriously in philosophical circles. If someone says, oh, I probably could do this, right? In philosophical circles, and then you say, do it.
Hey, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. Do it. Thank you so much. Again, like, I cannot tell you how grateful I am. Thank you so much for doing this. And yeah, just take care, and hopefully we'll have you on the channel again. And yeah, see you soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Sig.
It's all right, man. Take care, Chris.
Bye, guys.
Right. Thank you, bud. He's got to go. He literally has to go, guys. Okay. And with that,